Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming.
Mr. Flynt, may we ask your reaction to the Supreme Court decision?
No doubt I'm excited about it. We felt we had, excuse me, we felt we were in a winning position, but we didn't want to try to second guess the court. And I just finished reading the final opinion. I think it's a big victory not only for me, but it's a big victory for everyone. Because if they would have decided that Falwell could collect damages and not prove liable, and all they have to prove is infliction of emotional distress, well, he could sue anybody. Political cartoonists, some of them have problems today, but even though it's just borderline ones, they would all get the suits. And he can take the witness stand and he say, you know, I realize I'm not liable, but I haven't slept for 3 months. It's got my family all tore up, and I've had emotional stress. So I mean, what a predicament that would have put the press in. It's absolutely unbelievable. I'm happy that all the major networks and all the major newspapers and national magazines all filed an amicus brief with the court stating that they supported my position on the case.
Some people call this a victory for satire, others call it a victory for pornography. What do you call it?
Well, it's clearly a victory for satire. You know, Justice Rehnquist, who wrote the opinion himself, at one time does he mention the word pornography. You know, it was a parody. The jury said it was a parody, but that it wasn't libel.
Falwell said today that he disagreed with the court because it gives people like you a green light to print whatever you like about public figures. How do you respond to that statement?
Well, you should have a green light to print whatever you want about public figures. And that's the way the press has always written. Sure, if they say something that is untrue, and you get in court, then that's a totally different situation. But otherwise, you can say what you want to do.
He also says you've got no right to be outrageous. But what do you say to Falwell when he says you have no right to be outrageous?
Well, I mean, I don't win bag. You know how his arguments are, you know. Depends on how he gets up in the morning. But if we would have lost any of the magazines that deal with heavy satire, and even many of them that deal with just nothing but editorial content, would have to brace themselves for anticipated legal action.
What do you think of Justice Rehnquist? You become a close ally of his now?
I'm surprised that he wrote the majority opinion. I'm even more surprised that we won it 8-0.
You were surprised at the unanimous verdict.
Yes.
Why?
I was up there a year ago and cussed them out, you know. And I'm going up now and say review this case. And they didn't have no love for me. And personal feelings do enter into a lot of that, those decisions, where they come out correct or not, but it happens.
Would you rerun the ad?
But yes, we probably will.
Which issue?
This is the issue here. First one, November '83, and it was this inside ad.
Could you hold that up for just a moment longer? I want to ask you, speaking directly, literally, to Jerry Falwell today, you got any messages for the Reverend Falwell?
I think he should stick to the pulpit and start policing his own kitchen, you know, and not trying to make a scapegoat out of everybody that don't think his way.
You're referring to Mr. Swaggart and others,
Yes.
What do you think of Jerry Falwell? I mean, you've had run-ins with him, obviously.
Very honestly, I've met hundreds of the evangelical type people. I was good friends with Ruth Carter Stapleton. I met a lot of people that she knew through him. And some of these people who pastor churches and pass the word, they're real believers, you know, and they really try to set their life and live that way and model their life. But those are so few and far between. I mean, some of the stories, you know, about some of the others, not just Swaggart and Falwell, it's so difficult to get anybody to go on the record. But some of the stories are just absolutely mind-boggling.
Is this worth all the money you've spent, attorney fees, and you're being arrested in the Supreme Court? Is it worth it all?
No, not really.
Why?
Well, I'm probably going to be, I get my $200,000 back, and I'm still going to be out around $1 million on attorney fees. But I would like for them to say that I paid my price for the First Amendment. And we pay a price for everything in today's society. That's toleration, is what that price is. You got to tolerate the things that are unpopular or that nobody likes. So I tolerate Jerry Falwell. He has to tolerate me. And I think I think the decision just strongly reaffirmed the court's case in Sullivan versus New York Times. You know, that's where we got the actual malice standard from. And I think because of that, this will always be a landmark case in history. Because Justice Rehnquist, wait a minute, I think he did say anything, maybe he did say that even if it was pornographic, that wouldn't have anything to do with the satire. I'm not sure. So maybe pornography is in there at one time. I don't know.
Was there anything else, Mr. Flynt, that you've been holding back on, waiting for a decision on this, that now you feel pretty good about, that you're going to go ahead with? Does this open any doors for you and let you go for other things?
I started in 1974, and I haven't changed anything yet, and I'm not going to. I put out a magazine for a specific audience. As long as that audience keeps buying and responding, I'll keep publishing.
Why do you think this was such an important case to fight, to spend your $1 million on, even though you're not going to be remunerated for that?
Well, my whole business is irreverence and satire, aside from, the pornography. So to not win is going to put me pretty much out of business. But to win it, it's not only a victory for me, but it's a victory for anyone else, that's walking on the threads, walking on the borderlines.
some would call you a dubious defender of the First Amendment. Your response?
Well, they tell me, don't hide behind the First Amendment. I said, it's mine as well as yours. Thank God we've got one to hide behind.
Are you going to take advantage of, in effect, what's happened here? In what way are you going to take advantage of? Try to recover your $1 million.
We'll have a very interesting. We will devote a few pages to bring that back to life.
You're going to go back and visit Mr. Falwell again?
Well, I don't know about visiting him, but I might visit some of his neighbors.
Or you're not finished with Mr. Falwell, despite the fact that he is
Coming off. He is a pompous bag of wind. I mean, he says things, and when he gets off camera, it's just like he didn't even know what he said. It's not like all the different times he's put his foot in his mouth, like saying that Reverend or Bishop Tutu was a liar or something. And then this guy on the radio station up here caught him on a lie where he'd said something on a particular tape, and Falwell said, "I'll pay you $5,000 if you get me that tape." So he got the tape and took him to court in San Francisco, and he had to pay him. I mean, if you just follow again that guy's footsteps and see some of the things, the debris that falls out, it's something.
Could you reiterate, please, why this fight was so important to you and why you were willing to spend all this money, even though you probably will not recover it?
Well, I felt that I had to do it. I had to defend the First Amendment, just as the landmark cases before me that have given us the press freedom we have today, like Ulysses, Fanny Hill, Lady Chatterley's Lover. All these are well-known epic books that at one time in this country were charged with obscenity and prosecuted. This is just another part of that. Someone not liking your politics or your taste, and they're going to sue you. And I felt it's got to be one, or we're going to turn the clock back, to the 18th century. And even though I appreciate everybody coming on board at the end there when they did, where all the networks, vice presidents were there, and all the major media, they all showed up at the court to listen to the arguments. But if they would have been in there with me on the first day that trial started, in Norfolk, maybe we could have averted having this whole thing the way it is.
So you would place your magazine in the same category of the literature you just mentioned? When you talked about Lady Chatterley's Lover, you would place your magazine in the same category?
A reason why I mention those is because those three cases are very important cases, getting the First Amendment, what you can say and what you can do in print. And Hustler is just, a continuation of that. I think we can say free speech is protected in America right now. And
Has this renewed your faith in the American justice system? I know at times you've not been pleased with the court's rulings.
Yeah, it does give me a little faith, unbelievably, it does.
Could this case have won on its own merit without $1 million and some brilliant lawyers? I think could have stood by itself.
That's an interesting question. I would answer that yes, because the question was just so basic. The jury didn't find liable, but they wanted to give him damages for you hurting his feelings. That was the whole argument in 5 minutes. But we had briefs stacked, 20 feet high to make the same point, and it should have been a very simple appeal. But we wanted to win, and we spent the money.
Thank you.
Can you give me an idea of who some of the neighbors of Falwell will be that you might take up and...
They have their book burnings, and their Saturday night record burnings. I think the people has to be told that these people are out there. They want to dictate what you want rather than letting them.
How about the ad? I think that's what we got.
Did a similar ad feature anyone else besides Falwell?
Mm.
You never got the problem taken care of?
the brakes on.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
That's it.